Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Venue for Venues. And tonight we have a special guest, The Venue. And as a result, I get to play a few tunes. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Scott Tipping. I'm going to play a tune and we're going to get underway. And I feel like I'm running through space and time, and I seem to be stumbling. I'm stumbling while riding high, and I fall for nothing. There's nothing like a fall from flight, and I see us struggling. I'm struggling with you in mind, and all the years disappear. My ways to life and the fear so clear. My ways to it's a young gun's game that I'm running, and I'm playing with grit and fire, but the lines keep on coming, defining my age and kind. As death bell toll starts stumbling, it's summoning some friends of mine, and the sea starts rumbling. It's rumbling with you in mind. Yeah, all the years disappear. My ways in life and all the fear so clear. My ways and I feel like I'm running through space and time, but I seem to be stumbling. I'm stumbling while wide and high, and I fall for nothing. There's nothing like a fall from flight, and I see us stumbling. I'm struggling with you in mind. Yeah, all the years disappear, and my ways to life in the fear so clear. My ways to life, yeah, all the years so clear. My ways to life in the fear disappears for my ways. Thank you.
Well, damn, that's the way to start.
And now I'd like to introduce our executive director, Melissa Mercado.
Hi there. Thanks for joining us tonight. First off, there's a few things that we want to show you about some of our history. We've got a little video that we're going to play. For our regular patrons, some of you may or may not know this. For some of the volunteers that have helped to build this place, it'll be a nice trip down memory lane. So without further ado, let's roll it.
Welcome back, everybody. That video is proof that you don't need the Oscars tonight. We've got the goods right here. We also have a couple other guests with us that I'd like them to introduce themselves to you.
Hi, hey. So I'm Sarah Garcia, and I've been here since the beginning, and I am currently, my title is General Manager.
That's a really nice introduction, by the way.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I'm Charlie Mayton. I am the new technical director for the venue. I take care of all of our hardware and stuff like that.
Welcome, friends. I think at this point it might be kind of cool. We do this at all the venue for venues, and we've got a lot of people, so we'll try to keep it concise. But I think it might be nice to get everyone's background a little bit, where you came from, and how you got here, and why this is important to you. Starting with our executive director, Melissa.
Thanks, Scott. So, I'm Melissa Mercado. I am the executive director of the Fox Valley Music Foundation that operates the venue. I came into this position, I drew the short straw. For many years, I served on the Blues on the Fox committee. And as you know, the Blues on the Fox is a festival that's been here in Aurora for going on 25 years now. And the very small, close-knit group or committee that started that little festival when it was a street festival and then grew into a larger festival down the street at River Edge Park, realized that we needed to do something more than just make recommendations for who should be on stage down there. So we formed a small nonprofit, which became the Music Foundation, and then we started dreaming a little bit bigger, to having our own home. And the video that you just saw shows, how that came about. We entered into an agreement with the city of Aurora, and they were generous enough to allow us use of this building. And we said, great, we'll take it on. With the help of many, many volunteers, we were able to make it into an awesome music listening space, and that's how we got here to the venue.
That's great, and we're gonna focus on you a little bit more once we get to the pandemic stuff. But first, why don't we move down the line here and hear about Sarah's background and how you got here?
Like I said earlier, I'm Sarah Garcia. So I'm a backstage person. I say that all the time. That is who I am. I have been backstage between plays and music since 6th grade, and I haven't stopped. I have a degree in stage management, and when I got out of college, of course, I did the typical theater degree on waitress and server and and a bartender for many years. But in between, I did a lot of stage managing. While I was in college, I got to work backstage for rock concerts and got to work with the stagehands down there, the stagehand union down there. And then eventually I got back to it up here, and I've been working, I helped open the Sears Center Arena. I was the associate event director when I left, and then I went to Live Nation, and I was with them for a bunch of years, and I was just a production manager behind the stage. And I heard about this. This was right down the street, a lot less hours, a little less stress.
That's what you thought.
So that's how I got here. But I'm just an advocate for music. Just live music is just, I'm non-musical, but I love it. So that's how I get to get it.
That's fantastic. What about you, Charlie?
So I just wandered in off the street one day, basically.
He did.
I actually have a degree in technical theater, but before I did the waiting and the busing, I realized that I wanted to actually put food on the table. So I went into engineering, and I've been associated with theater and live productions on the side, always kind of doing things. I've been a DJ, and I heard about this place that the Fox Valley Music Foundation was putting together, and they were building it, and I saw these pictures, and it was just calling, come, come, come. And I couldn't get over here. I had some restrictions that wouldn't let me come over here and actually help build this place out. But soon as it opened, I was at the front door.
Yes.
The front, back
Back,
door.
front,
Front,
whatever.
back door.
I was at the front door, the main entrance off of Water Street, and greeting every patron as they came in. And that's where I really started doing everything with the venue, and just kind of grew from there, doing more and more. And I'm kind of here all the time, I'm told. But it's not true, because I do a lot of other things too, so.
Well, that's great. I think maybe we can move here. You know, I first heard of the venue because of some of the social media hype and because of my relationship at Kiss the Sky with Steve Warrenfeldt. He started kind of bleeding me information. and I really wanted to get involved. And that's when I met Melissa and some of the people from the board. And it was really exciting for me as somebody who's been a full-time musician for a long time to see the amount of depth and care that people were putting into this space, and the belief that we could have a really high-quality listening space. And I want to ask Melissa a bit about that. So we've seen the video of the build of it and how that works, but why don't we talk a little bit about when you came onto this project as executive director, you started to have to bring on various people, but we're not for profit, so you can't bring in too many people. And how does that work? And how does it work with the foundation as well? Like, we work in tandem with them, but there's some separation at times. Maybe you can expand on that.
Well, it's kind of a two-edged sword here. The foundation is its own entity, and its mission is to preserve, promote, and present the music of the Fox Valley. The venue is a program of the foundation, and but along with that, the overall arching goal of, I think, both entities was to create a community gathering space. I believe personally that music is a great equalizer. No matter where you're from, what you do, it's a common denominator. Everybody loves music. If you don't love it, you're affected by it all day, every day, in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of what, brought us all together into this space.
Yeah, and we started to see, well, I would like to ask too, because when I first met some of the team, Sarah, your original position morphed, correct?
Correct.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
It morphed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mine was kind of a weird happenstance. I had been home for a little bit to spend more time with my kids, and I'm a worker bee, so I had started looking for a job, heard about this place. With my background, I was like, hey, I can go work out over here. And Melissa, I met you, 2 weeks before we opened?
Yes.
I wasn't here for the build, but I met her 2 weeks before we opened, and I think my title then was executive assistant.
Yes.
And then with my experience as a production manager, then I became kind of a executive assistant / production manager. But we are a very small.
We are. We're
So
tiny.
we wear many, 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 many hats. So I'm learning accounting, which is kind of funny, and running a bar. Well, I've ran bars before, so I've done that. But the volunteers, getting them, and it just kind of grew. It kind of grew.
Exactly.
So Melissa and I we're the two full-timers. So
Now,
yeah,
only
only.
as of like a month ago.
Right, and I wasn't technically full-time when I started, but I worked full-time. So,
And I work two
yes.
full time.
yes, you absolutely did.
Things are a little more
you know what?
equitable now.
We couldn't have done it without our volunteers. There's absolutely zero way this would have happened without our volunteers.
True that.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's an interesting side of this place that I think many people aren't aware of, which is, we'll talk a lot about what our volunteers do, but most people go to a show and that show has servers, bartenders, people like that, but this place doesn't really operate like that. Why don't we talk a little bit about how that started, why that happened like that, and how it works differently than other places?
Gotcha. Well, our volunteers are the core of what we have here at the venue. It was decided, because we're a community hub, and the community of Aurora and music lovers throughout the Fox Valley have made this happen.
Yes, they have.
They've built this, they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and because we're a nonprofit and we kind of run on a shoestring, for all intents and purposes, we do. it made it necessary for us to have this strong cohort of volunteers, and they all have ownership in this. I mean, Charlie can speak to that, and he has served in many volunteer roles. We have Robin Arsenal. She has helped to bring in a group that helps to maintain and clean the venue. Our board members, of course, they volunteer, their time and talents, but really, in all aspects, we have volunteers that are assisting.
One of the things I find special about that, and one of the things that I think makes this place very unique and endearing to me, is opening night. Everybody gets excited when a new place opens, and it was a killer bill with a lot of great music. It's sold out, it's always exciting to have a new place that sells out right out of the gate. But one of the things that I took with me from that evening was that there was a different energy in the air, because people were not going to a place that had opened that they had heard about. There were people in the audience who literally put together these walls. These were people who helped do all kinds of things for it. And then there were people who were getting trained to run the bar, clean, do all kinds of various helper with production and stuff. So there was like, it really did. I know sometimes when people throw out disclaimers like this, it seems disingenuous, but there really was this energy that we did this.
Yes, there's a lot of pride of ownership.
Yeah, it
Yes,
was not a
there is.
feeling. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've got like this core group of volunteers that always jump in to help out, and they've been here from the beginning. And the dedication, and it's ownership. It is exactly what you said. It's ownership that they have over the place, because many of them helped build it. They helped put the wood on the wall. They helped put the tiles down. They built the stage. They hung the lights. They put so much of their soul into this place. They connect with it instantly on this level of a higher ownership.
Right.
There's this pride, this hometown pride, also that we did this together. And the best thing about the volunteer corps is that it's really open to everybody in the Fox Valley. People can sign up and get trained and be able to witness or listen to concerts that normally they would have to pay and sit there and watch. And it's a great opportunity.
They also get to be a part of it. I mean, I think we're a pretty fantastic community. I mean, our volunteers are, Robin, you mentioned, is fantastic. Bob, hi. I mean, he's running this right
Bob's in the
now.
booth running it right now.
Her husband.
Bob.
I mean,
Yep.
and all of our people here.
Chris and
through this, we'll
Len
talk
and
about all them.
Elizabeth. Yep.
Yeah.
Ian.
Yeah, we couldn't do it.
Steve.
But even, yeah. It's great because our volunteers really do have a sense of ownership, and they should, and it is theirs.
We would not be here without them
No.
at all.
Not only building, but running,
Yes.
Well, let's talk about running a little bit. That interests me. So you get the place built, then you get opening night, and then what happens? Because as I remember, it was almost like hitting the ground running for the first time, as far as figuring out how many days a week we should be open, what kind of shows. I mean, it was really trial by fire, but it was trial by fire that actually was methodical, logical, and worked.
Well, we all knew enough to be dangerous. Our board is pretty robust in a variety of various fields. Together, we have people that have worked for the city of Aurora, people that have worked for nonprofits, lawyers, music aficionados like Steve Warrenfeld, and everybody brought a different skill level to the table, and it may have looked like it was easy, but it was 2 years in the making from the time that redevelopment agreement was signed, and I took on the position of executive director. knew a little bit about building and had some pretty fair ideas about, some other things, but together as a unit, we were able to move forward. And I think, what I have to say is what we were perfectly willing to fail. And going in with that attitude, it made it a lot easier to ask people for help, because people want to be helpful. So with volunteers, if we didn't know how to do something, we would ask somebody that did, or they would ask somebody that they knew. And so this network, it just kind of propagated, and there was always somebody that knew somebody that could help out with this, that, or the other, and it just grew from there.
That's great. And maybe, go ahead.
I think a key part of it is the team, because everyone is willing to get down and get dirty and take care of the menial tasks, cleaning the bathrooms and stuff.
Yes.
Everybody will do it. Melissa's done it, Sarah's done it, I've done it, all of the volunteers have done it. And that connection of team is what really makes us strong.
I agree, and I learned that from a woman who was a great example. And, as a leader and as a manager, I have always tried not to ask somebody else to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself. And I'll do a lot of stuff, so I expect a lot from other people too. And I've never been disappointed with this group of people. They would do anything. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I guess big surprise, I am a volunteer.
But when we made him technical director, we doubled his pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
I saw the car outside. That's nice. Okay, so we get the idea of how we run here with volunteers and stuff, and I think this is a good way to segue into this. We start putting on shows. We start figuring out how to put on shows. We start to feel the wind in the sails a bit, that we're getting some momentum. And there was a definite feeling of crossing a line where it was like, we've got this, and we were almost getting a little bit of swagger about what was ahead. And then what happened?
Well, we were coasting along pretty good. We made it, our first 6 months, and we weren't broke yet. When we started out, we'd have 50 or 60 people in here, and then, the next month we had 70 or 80 people on a regular basis, and we were doing an occasional sellout. The first of which I believe was your album cover, Mr. Tipping.
Yes, it was. Our very first sellout.
And that quickly became a fan favorite, and we were really building some steam. The holidays were good to us. We were looking at a January and a February that, we had solid shows every single weekend. We were getting close to what we had projected for, the number of shows, the number of people in the audience. Our volunteers were, helping out like crazy. We were running double shifts, and word was catching on, not only in the community, but also in the music community. I think that this was a solid place to play. They were, musicians were treated well. The sound was great. And we were really starting to hit it. And then disaster. In, like the space of 24 or 48 hours, we just hit the hooks and came to a dead stop.
Yeah, I remember we were here at, I think it was Dave Glenn's group.
Yes.
And we had gotten word from the governor, through the internet during that show that everything has to shut down, no more live venues. And I remember the volunteers and some of us, we were kind of wandering around like almost like the Walking Dead, because we were like, what do we do now? How can this be? We just have to stop? How does that work?
We chewed on it for a little bit.
and so for the record, was Dave's show the last show before shutdown?
It was not. We
Okay.
had one on Sunday. Apparently, we just didn't believe that it was a reality that we were supposed to be closed. However, we had over 100 tickets sold to that show. It was a Sunday afternoon, big band with the Fox Philly Orchestra, and we ended up with about 25 people in the audience, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was quite a reality check.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we get shut down, and first of all, we were told that we thought it would be a couple weeks.
Right.
A couple weeks seemed like maybe it's a month. And so there was this initial, like, okay, so we got to reschedule a handful of shows. Everyone's going to lock down.
Yeah, and there was this
Everything's gonna.
capacity thing, we might be allowed to, have 25 or 50 people and, but yeah, it all kind of went south.
Right. When did it start to sink in as a timeline? We were shut down mid-March. When did it start to sink in, this is going to be longer than we thought?
It was inconceivable.
Yeah.
Nothing, nobody's ever experienced anything like this.
Right.
I certainly hadn't.
Right.
When did it sink in? I don't know, probably after about a week and a half when it was just Sarah and I in here and
rescheduling
Yes.
and ticketing, reticketing, and
refunding.
refunding. I think that's when it hit
Well,
me.
yeah, the first wave, it was like, okay, well, we'll be up and running again in a couple of months. So we really quickly rewrote all the contracts for, April, May, and June and put them into, July, August, September. And we know how that turned out. And
Yeah.
it just has been a roller coaster ever since.
So we're shut down. We realize we're going to be shut down for a while. Where does the spark start for a live stream?
I think that came from Steve Warrenfeld.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And
Steve
Tony.
started that.
Yes.
Tony
and
Pratt.
We started doing on Monday nights, where normally we're dark on Mondays. That was our one guaranteed day off. The fellas
But
chose
we didn't have
that
shows anyways.
night to do a live stream, and we were very, very fortunate that we had some amazing audiovisual equipment to be able to turn it around so quickly. I think our first live stream was like the first Monday in April, something like that.
That was Dave, right? Vermont?
It was either Dave or Noah. I'm
Oh,
not
it was
sure.
Noah.
It was Noah.
It was Noah.
Noah.
My apologies. It was
Noah Gabriel.
Yeah.
And we were not a professional quality at that point in time, but we knew that we had to do something.
Steve really, really pushed that. I mean,
Yes.
he just, Steve is one of, we've mentioned his name. He is on our board of directors, and he does own a record store in
the Sky.
in Batavia, Kiss the Sky. So, we keep saying Steve. But that was really his thing, and he just wanted to keep, I feel he just wanted to keep some musicians
Yes, that's
on stage, and then we'll keep our name in relevant,
Right.
but give these people who a place to just create.
I think there was also an idea because of the amount of panic that was going on. There was a vibe here about what can we do to bring entertainment to people
Right.
who are now locked at home, wondering, a lot of people out of jobs or just wondering what's safe to do and not do. So there was also like this consensus of
Absolutely.
like, what can we do? So how did that evolve?
Well, I think we were. It just kept getting bigger. We got more audience hits. We got more requests for it.
Yes, and we wanted to make sure that, everybody got we were particularly concerned about our local musicians, I think, and giving them an outlet for,
Right.
a potential revenue stream.
Right. I mean,
because
they made money off of donations.
Yeah.
So, but it got with our equipment, as Charlie can attest to, it got to the point where we went, wait a minute, we can really make this bigger.
Right,
And,
it
and,
grew.
and
Right,
a
we could
high
take
And
it up.
we
production.
learned.
And this is my guy that really got us to that
Charlie,
place.
when did you start to get involved? And tell us maybe right from the inception what you brought to the table that helped evolve things.
So I cannot remember exactly when that happened because
No,
you
I
know,
want the exact date right now.
And
the
time.
the world
Minute,
was so
hour.
broken and still is that it. When I came in though, the guys that have been doing it, Steve and Tony, they were really putting themselves at risk to do this, and I was kind of concerned about that. And
Yeah.
so I came in and I wanted to be here to give them the opportunity to step back. And then as we started to get my feet underneath me, because, you know, what are we doing? How are we doing these streams? What are we booking? It really started to pick up steam, and then we pulled in more volunteers. A lot of them had the same last name as me. To really push the shows and push the envelope so that we could get higher viewers, higher viewer numbers. Whether or not they were high is a different thing altogether. Get our numbers up so that way we could have an opportunity for those performers, and primarily local, to be able to get those donations, to get something in because their world shut down.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
some of us recognize that,
Yes.
oh my gosh, you know, we're really kind of lucky because we've only got 2 people here, but all of the venues are shut down and
Right.
all of the musicians have nowhere to go and play.
Right.
And being a musician is not like working a 9-to-5 job. You
No.
don't get a paycheck at the end of the week that's the same every week. They're hustling and they're out there working, and when they can't perform,
They don't get paid.
they don't get paid, and the rent is still due, the car note is still due, you still got to put food on the table, you got to pay the light bill, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to survive, really survive.
I 100% agree. And I mean, it was little what we were able to do. I wish we could have given them so much more. But I mean, as Melissa
Right.
said, we're on a shoestring. And, but I do think that one of the other added value that we talked about quite a bit was if we do a higher production and a better, you know, a really high-end sound, that we can give those bands that footage and they can use that to
Yes.
market later. So they didn't have to pay to get a really high quality,
Production.
production of
and-
themselves.
And we had gotten honored. So we had Toronzo Canada in here. And he did a show, and it was just off the chain. It was amazing. Blew me away, blew everybody else away. And
Nearly blew up the stage.
nearly blew up the stage because he
'Cause he
actually
lit
lit
his
his guitar
guitar
on
on
fire. And he went back, and his record company then reached out to us and said, wow, that what you guys did in that stream, we want to do that and record it so we can show it to other people. And then that's when we recognized, really, we're getting to that level so that these musicians can take this. And every single show that we've filmed, we have stored, and the musicians can ask for it,
Most of them have.
And-
I usually send it to them.
and they get it and use it for whatever
It's
will
theirs.
help them out.
Can you take a second though, because with you and this place, it, especially over the last year, it really is a family affair. And you
Yes.
said, you know, people with my last name.
Yeah.
Can you just give them a
Please.
shout out, everybody
Yeah, so
individually?
so when we first came in and started doing the live streams, I pulled in Andrew and Matthew, who are my sons. And both of them had worked here as volunteers in security roles. Matthew did the lights, and he would help the sound guys set up and tear down.
And he redid all my
Yes,
lines for.
that's true. And then, as time went on, I pulled in Elizabeth, my daughter, the oldest, and she's actually the one directing tonight, so she's in the booth calling the shots. And we were all here. My wife would come in occasionally and like clean things on the side, but not really her thing, which was fine. But she would put up with all of us being here all the time, and then coming home and going, "What's for dinner? It's 9:30 at night. What's going on?"
Yeah.
But yeah, very much. I really leaned on my family hard because we were limited to how many people we could have in here as a space
Right.
with the band. So if we could only have a crew of 3, we really needed to have those three running around, and I didn't want to ask volunteers that don't live under my roof to do things like
But
that.
I think we did. I think we did that. You know, because you guys all did live
Yes.
together,
Yes.
so you were in your bubble.
Right.
My husband came in a lot in the beginning, you know, because
We tried to
we
creep
tried to keep those bubbles.
the cross
Yes.
contamination, I guess, at a minimum.
and that was
I think what's you're alluding to that I think we should all talk a little bit about more. So the live streams evolve. We start to have them more regularly. We start booking people specifically for these live streams. But people who aren't here and don't know what goes into one of these things and the safety that has to be involved with this. So maybe everybody here could speak a little bit about that.
Well, we've tried from the very beginning to be very COVID protocol conscious.
yes, we have.
Whether we were doing a live stream and limiting, to 10 people in the building, or whether, eventually we were allowed to move outside for a brief period of time. But from the get-go, the sanitizing, the moving of the tables, making smaller table sizes and stuff, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. For the live stream, we all maintained at all times, masks, social distancing,
They're sanitizing
hand
things
sanitizer
all over
on the
room,
stage,
everywhere.
and our sound guys, they on the mics,
We
wiping
disinfect
things
everything.
down,
Yeah, and we were
disinfecting.
cognizant of it, so we would say, I would ask, how many people are coming in
Right.
to perform? And if it was 4 or 5 or 6, I would reduce the staff numbers on the stream so that we could still create the stream but not violate the numbers, because we were really, really careful. We didn't want
Yeah.
anyone to get
Originally, we were doing mostly solo acts,
Right.
and then we moved up to duos and trios. We haven't really done any heavy horns up here because, of course, there's a
Right.
lot of,
But we also learned a little bit about this building, and one of the things, if you've been to this facility, is it's a great big space. So few people in here masking can easily distance, ultra distance from one another. But I specifically remember doing a live stream with a band where the keyboardist reached out to me, and I thought, I'd never even thought about this before. He said, "What's the HVAC system in this place like?" Because we were worried about recirculated air, and you
No, Charlie.
figured out, Charlie,
Charlie,
who figured it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our HVAC system does not pull in inside air. It only pulls in outside air. So it exchanges the air, the entire volume of the room, like in 30 minutes or something.
Right.
It completely changes it over, which we didn't know that. It wasn't specified to be that way, but what a blessing it is
Right.
to have this.
And then we also have, we have a very large garage door, which also will open that up, and that will bring in a lot of fresh air and stuff like that. But with our HVAC system, we're the ones that they're telling you should go get.
yes.
You know?
Right. So we figure out we have this safe space, and we're keeping it as safe as possible. I shouldn't just call it a safe space. It's because of the fact we adhere to these protocols. And then I remember in July, we did a very small album cover show that was like an invite only, because for a minute it looked like we were going to be able to do live shows again.
Yes.
But that quickly went away.
We were allowed 50 people.
We were allowed to have 50 people inside. And in theory, we sold 50 tickets. It was a sold-out show. However, not all of the ticket buyers showed up because I think there was a little bit of leeriness, hesitancy about safety. And, we did open our garage door. We had some people outside in the park, which was kind of nice. And, but we were fairly strict on, people coming into the building. I mean, we
temperature checked.
we
Yep, checking
did temperature
temperatures.
checks. We asked
Questioning
them,
them, yep.
their name, rank, serial number, blood type, you name it. We wanted to make sure that everybody that was coming in was healthy and wasn't going to expose anybody else to something not nice. So,
Sure.
we took that very seriously. But And, you know, we found out through doing that, we actually had about 3 solid months of shows. But in doing, you know, even though we were allowed to be indoors, we did most of our programming outdoors
Right.
because the musicians, I don't think, were ready at that point in time to be indoors. You know, even if there was rain,
Right.
they would prefer it outdoors.
Yeah, well, and that's where this is a good segue because that's where I was going next. We have this beautiful indoor facility that took years to build, and it's here dormant. And then all of a sudden, the idea is, well, what about doing shows outside? I know all 3 of you can talk at great length about how that started and what it entailed. Go.
Go for it.
What do you think, Sarah? We had to eat our Wheaties every day because there was a lot
It
of
was a lot of
moving
work.
equipment.
Last summer, Melissa and I've worked very hard at times in my life, but last summer was killer.
I think the
We did a lot of
phrase
schlepping.
flying by the seat of your pants applies.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a 60-hour week in
Yes.
4 days. So,
Yes.
but it really worked out well.
We did a lot of signage. We did a lot of audience education. We did a lot of volunteer education.
Yeah, we
You know, we're very fortunate that we have that space. We were able to get a permit from the city in order to do the, you know, use the
and
Money Park.
honestly, we had the permit from the city to bring our bar out there, so that
Yes.
you know we were able to sell beer and wine out there. So
And for like a short time, we had, you know, a small little normal bubble
right.
outdoors.
right, and it's a beautiful park, and the sound out there, I think, surprised all of us. It sounded better than it could have sounded worse. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it
It
exceeded
could
our
have. We thought it
expectations.
could have bounced. We thought it could have been because we're up against another brick wall, and we have a brick wall here. But they're older, so I think they absorbed a lot of the sound, so it wasn't echoey, and it was a decent, good outdoor sound. And we had some great,
Awesome.
awesome
Yeah.
sound engineers, so that always
Yes.
helps.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second. Speaking of people that we must thank, hi, Larry. We couldn't move. We didn't move this PA out there. So what happened? And what? Why don't you, Sarah,
Yeah,
specifically
Sarah.
Yeah.
talk to us about the production of what it takes because we are going outside again. What does it take to get this happening?
So we actually purchased a second soundboard for in case we do a live stream on top of the
An actual show.
outdoor show, because we'll have to have 2 different sound engineers. But we have a smaller PA system that is portable, and Larry and I, we would just haul that thing out every night and haul it back in, do lots of cabling, monitors, and brought all that out. It was great with with our duos and solo artists and lower key bands, but Larry can probably attest to this. The rock bands, those were pushing sound a little bit,
We ran right
so
up
we
to that
really
line.
had to watch that and adapt. We really had to adapt to figure out how to bring our sound outside.
One of the things I found unique, and I know specifically who I want to bring up, but I think one of the things that was sort of magical, and it speaks to the community that has been kind of cultivated here, was those shows didn't feel like, well, they're just kind of making it work. It was like there were some really magical moments that happened out there. Specifically, the one I'd like to bring up would be Chicago Farmer, because of the fact his band absolutely did not want to do anything indoors. And so those shows, just so you know, rain or shine.
Yep.
And some of the footage, and I'd like you both to talk, all 3 of you, to talk about it a bit because of the fact. Oh, you weren't there?
I was not at that show.
Okay, well, see, my first guess was right. You two, I didn't want to exclude. Anyway, But some of the footage I saw of that was really, it was really kind of a beautiful sign of humanity. Talk to us about that.
Well, Farmer was a sold-out show that was sold out indoors
Prior
So-
to COVID.
prior to COVID. So we did not want to disappoint all of those people. We knew there would be some attrition because people just were not coming out at all in quarantine. But we moved every one of our tables and chairs outdoors and set it up in as close to a representation as the chairs would have been to the stage
Right.
outdoors. So we had to turn it on its side and kind of reimagine.
You made it work. She
But
did that floor
we
plan.
made it work.
Yeah.
And it was a delightful evening of music, although a little wet.
Yeah.
and
You
a
know,
little
we had to
cold.
make a lot of adjustments in production for that, and the guys in the band, I applaud them. I mean, Cody's awesome, and he stayed out in the rain.
They were
but
such troopers.
They were such troopers.
We went through a lot of towels that night.
We sure did. But we have this garage door, as I spoke about, and usually the band will be outside. But we brought the band half in and half out so that we can protect the keyboard and the drummers.
Yeah.
So we can protect their instruments and their music, or the monitors and the sound and all of that. And I think we only lost one monitor that night, and we were
Yeah.
able to get it back.
We learned about tarps and
Yeah.
bungee cords and all that good
Yep.
stuff. And thankfully, we have a hardware store less than a mile away,
Yep. hmm
and it all worked.
So but
But
that
it was magical. It was, Cody, it was
Yes.
magical.
well, he and the band were certainly great from everything I saw. But the other two places I'd like to give props to is you have this rainy show, and then you have volunteers trying to help fix everything.
Yes.
You know, or not fix, but help, because obviously you're talking about moving the drummer and the keyboardist in the garage, but we had gear out there that needed
Yes.
to be protected.
Yeah, Larry and I had a fun night. It was, but our volunteers were awesome. I mean, they helped everywhere they could. They were soaking wet, and
How about the audience?
that's where I was going next. That's absolutely where I was going next. The park out here, if you've not been here, it really has a mini Ravinia feel, and the audience, our audience, is just solid, man. They stuck with it, and I think that the interaction between Chicago Farmer and the audience really was made a little bit extra special because
Yeah.
of the rain, because it was such a weird
Yeah.
situation.
It's a shared experience.
It was definitely a
Yes.
shared experience, and I will never forget that show.
Yeah.
And I don't think any audience member that was there will ever
No.
forget it either,
No.
or our volunteers. I mean, Bob, but Bob had I remember him full on rain gear, and it was
Right.
awesome.
And I think we went through quite a few trash bags too as
Yep.
makeshift rain.
Yeah, we were giving out
Ponchos.
trash bags as ponchos, and it was very organic, and we got to hear live music, and the
Yeah.
excitement was up, and it was fantastic.
That's beautiful.
It was.
And that was towards the end of fall. And once again, we thought we might be able to have some lower capacity indoor shows. But then as the state opened up, cases and stuff started opening up. So when was the decision made that we're just not going to open until things are safe?
We mulled things over quite a bit in mid-October, and it was a general decision. I mean, I think Sarah and I talked it over, and we knew what we were comfortable with.
And Scott,
And Scott,
Yeah.
yourself too, and it just didn't seem to make sense to open or to try to fit the square peg in the round hole. We were dealing with something, as I said earlier, that just nobody had ever experienced before, and with the resurgence and the second wave, it was pretty frightening.
Yes, it was.
right?
And not something that who would want to be responsible for
Right.
having another human being become ill or worse yet, end up in the hospital or die.
or have
You
a
know, that's
super spreader,
that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
not something that I felt comfortable with. So we made the decision to return to live streaming in November, and twice a week. And we put on our thinking caps, and I remember sitting at a meeting with you two and talking about what kind of recurring programming that could we do that would provide, music and entertainment and education, because we wanted to speak to our mission, and still advocate for the musicians, and still be relevant, with our audience and patrons. And we did a lot of, throwing ideas back and forth. And I think we came up with a plan, and then we executed the plan to the best of our abilities, wouldn't you say? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm really
absolutely.
proud
Charlie.
of some of the stuff we've put together.
You know, the twice a week schedule works so well because as you started to promote it, people could put it on their calendars and they could plan, I'm going to see this show, just like as if they were coming. I got to see this show. I want to tune in for this. Oh, I want to make sure I always tune in for what's on your turntable because Steve reveals some really odd, different music things, and those are awesome, and I want to hear them. So I think that worked really well, and I think that doing the twice a week keeps us relevant, like you said, keeps music flowing, keeps people coming in and getting a little bit of funds.
I told people I'm probably one of the luckiest people in the world during this pandemic because I got to hear and be in the same room
As the
with
music.
live music every week.
Yes.
And the musicians would come in, and a lot of them hadn't been out in months, and it just felt good.
And we were both working from home. It's not like we were in here.
Right. No, we
you know.
worked from home during the day. We would just come in for the live streams at night.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also relevant to bring up the fact that this program, which we're kind of celebrating what
Right.
has been built here, but the inception of it was really to have venues come in here and describe what was going on with the pandemic and bring in a musician that represents that place.
Right.
And so you were talking earlier about keeping with the mission, but the mission also got very specific with what plight the entertainment industry or the service industry in large. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Well, our community of independent venues has been rocked to the core.
Yes.
And
Many
we're
haven't
very
survived. Right.
lucky. We are very, very blessed here. We happen to be, a nonprofit, and we were able to work around some things. But our community is just rocked. It's been horrible, and we wanted some of those venues to be able to come in, not in their space, we didn't want it to look like this is terrible, whatever. We just wanted to come in and let you guys know what's going on and how they were dealing with it and what it was doing to their businesses, because we're a community,
Yeah.
It's yeah.
I think that was one of the unique things about that show in particular was the fact that there were and certain organizations that exist for live music venues is that there's a solidarity there.
There is.
It's not a competition, and especially in plight, people wanted to help, and this wasn't about this place versus this place. It was we all felt it together.
Right. True. We had, I don't know if you guys remember, we did, every year we do a Giving Tuesday, fundraiser. There was a special one that was done last May. It was called Giving Tuesday Now. And we had a performance on stage here. And the proceeds from that performance, we had shared with local musicians that had performed on our stage, not necessarily for a live stream, but at some point in time during the evolution of the venue,
We've had a lot of musicians that
Yeah.
have really, and Scott was the performer that night.
yeah,
But we've had a lot of local musicians that come in and have worked here in different capacities. So we wanted to help them out because so many of them, I mean, like Charlie said, it's devastating. It's
It is, and-
devastating.
and-
if
and
you're a
as a
full-time
non-
musician, it is devastating.
And we're in a unique position as a nonprofit
'Cause it's
to
just
be able to give back.
Right.
We're also in a unique position as a nonprofit to be able to apply for and, fortunately for us, receive some of the COVID relief
Right.
for that,
And some
was available.
grants, and because we're, nonprofit, we can receive donations
and-
easier than a
Yes.
for-profit.
Moving forward, we have some live streams coming in May. We should, and I would like to talk about that. I want to see if once the live streams take a breather, if the Maton family's going to go on like a month vacation.
Hiatus.
You know?
No, that's not the plan right now. Because we jump right back into production roles.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
Charlie
be
is
working on this-
key
yeah.
into bringing. We're stepping up our game technically. Outside this year, we're going to have a stage and some special lighting, and Charlie is key.
So we've got
Somebody's got to run that new projector.
that's all Matthew.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll still be involved. We'll shift our roles a little bit, but at the same time, I think we're probably going to still record some of the shows, not necessarily stream them, because just for posterity's sake, it's great to have those. And as soon as the show's over, it's in the can. It's done. It's fully edited, ready to go out and be used by the artist, or
Right.
we can show it on a night when we just wanted to share the music.
Sure.
But sometimes live streaming is a lot more difficult than you guys would
Yeah.
think. If we have a show outside, then we have a sound engineer for the show outside. If we want to live stream it and it sound good as well, we have to have a separate sound engineer in the back, and he is mixing purely for the live stream,
Right.
or a video.
Broadcast.
So when we do that for prosperity, it's a lot more. It's not just throwing a camera up there and taking a video.
Right.
It's because you can imagine you'd hear all the audience members and you'd barely hear the band. So
Yeah.
it's and Charlie is really an I mean, that's his.
He's a
that's his.
perfectionist.
Yeah,
And it
you're,
works.
you're right. I'm never happy. We can always do better.
So we also, because we have, within the live streams, we also have something exciting coming, which is a sneak peek. So right now, we don't want to tell people what's going to happen when we go back outdoors, but maybe we can tell them what to expect with the sneak peek and what's happening with that.
Sure. Well, we will announce our schedule. We'll also screen a really awesome, slightly crazy safety video that was put together by our team, and they had a lot of fun doing it, I think.
Oh, that was Andrew. Thank you, Andrew Maton. That was amazing.
And we'll just go over some of what people can expect, protocol-wise. We are still going to take a pretty strict stance on, safety here. And, if you were here last year at the outdoor concerts, we did ask you to wear masks, and we will continue to do so. Obviously, if you're eating something or drinking something, you can remove if you're sitting in one place. But it's all about the collective good and making sure that everybody that's here has a great musical experience and stays safe and healthy. So.
Absolutely. And no, I'm not going to say anything like that because this is sneak peek material. But, so we're moving forward safely.
Yes.
We're moving outdoors. We hope someday we can be indoors, but that's not an option until we know it's safe to do it.
Right. We do not plan, I'm going to make a very bold statement. We have no plans at this point in time to move indoors until fall.
Sure.
Correct.
So our shows will be rain or shine.
Yeah, and it should be noted because I've had to talk to a few people about that. There's a difference here than other places because of the fact we're a ticketed show, and I know this got talked about a little bit. and I know that we're wrapping up soon, so I probably shouldn't open this can, but I'm going to. One of the things that our patrons need to understand, or people who are excited to come back to indoor shows and stuff, is that if, like what both of you had to deal with specifically over the last year, one of the most difficult things is to set up shows, sell tickets, and then find out, oh, you can't have that show. And then you reschedule the show, and as you were saying, everything, you have to contact all these people, you refund, you reschedule and all this, and then, oh, that's not happening. So I think people need to understand, not only are we doing it for safety's sake, but we're also doing it because logistically, for musicians and the people who work here, it's not worth it for us to try to schedule things until we really know we can go at it like we can.
Also for the audience member. I mean, the audience, I mean, how many people have been frustrated because, oh, I have a ticket here and now it was rescheduled and now it was rescheduled. Oh, it was canceled. But it's also for that,
Yeah.
It's tough.
Does anybody have some closing remarks? Are there some other thank yous that we'd like to point out that we haven't?
Gee, how long do we have?
We're pretty much there.
That would take a long time. My biggest and best thank yous go out to our patrons for sticking with us through thick and thin.
Supporting us
and
through this
supporting
on our
us.
live streams. And
Yes.
it's really helped us and the artists.
You have helped us to help musicians,
Yeah.
and that is huge. That's what this place is about. That's what all of the volunteers that have given of their time and talent, I can't thank them enough. I can try. I do try, but, somebody else needs to talk right now.
Well, okay, so the volunteer staff that we had when we were open and when we were doing outdoor shows and as we're doing live streams, they have been so giving of their time and of their talents. They have allowed us to evolve to a higher plane for our production values. And, they're here because they want to see our community, our venue, grow and make this a place where people come because it's safe and it's just plain awesome.
Yeah, our volunteers are, it's all, I mean, we could not do any of this without them. We couldn't, there's absolutely zero way. I mean, Charlie has been, he knows a lot about video and he's learned a lot about video. But all of our volunteers, I mean, over the summer, our bartenders, I mean, some of these people will walk back and forth and get draft beer. I mean, these people are fantastic. And they have hearts of gold, and we just
They're
couldn't
doing
do
it for the
without
love of the game.
them. They are doing it for the love of the game.
As are all of you here.
But if I wanted to thank somebody, that'd be and the patrons who are just, they've been supporting us also,
I think in summation, all of us feel incredibly grateful that we've been able to weather through this. I mean, this was this beautiful little dream that saw fruition, and unlike a lot of things, this actually caught wind and blossomed into what we wanted it to. And then all of us were trying not to be crestfallen or heartbroken when the pandemic hit, because obviously the larger thing is people's health and stuff like that. But we were just hoping we could hold on. And through a lot of hard work from a lot of people, including a lot of volunteers, we're still here. And we've got a season coming that we're really excited for you to see. And we're not going to talk about it, but we urge you to tune into our upcoming live streams and see our sneak peek. And if nobody else has anything to say or add, I'm going to play a song by Magic Sam, and we're going to call it a day.
Take it away, Scott.
I've been watching you every day, standing on a corner, baby, watching you pass my way. But give me time, oh, give me time. make you mine. My friends all say, yeah, that I was a fool for loving you, baby, while you was going to school. But give me time, oh, give me time. I'm gonna make you mine. And you don't love me, girl, and I know it's true. But I can't have anyone if I don't have you. My friends all say, yeah, that I was a fool for loving you, baby, while you was going to school. But give me time, oh, give me time. I'm gonna make you mine. You give me time, oh, give me time. I'm gonna make you mine. I'm gonna make you mine. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you.